I'm coming. If you hand over to government to maintain, they budget the money and share it.
To live in that particular place that the house is. So it's supposed government will even compensate them so that and pay them and relocate them to where they are going and build another house for them.
Careful engineering and management to meet human needs. Hi, it's another episode of Property Doctor, the show that brings to property owners and property users the easiest remedies to beautify your homes, to help you maintain your homes, and for you to save money. A wise man once said, being ignorant is not an excuse. But today we want to inform and educate you about something very important. On this episode, we'll be discussing on why properties are being demolished today, and I have a professional with me who will be helping us out from his wealth of experience. I have with me in the studio town planner, Dr. Razak Sharif. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam. It's nice to be here.
Dr. Razak Sharif is a chartered urban planner, and he has a PhD from the School of Built Environment, University of Salford, Manchester, United Kingdom, and is an author and co-author of several publications. He is a member of the prestigious College of Fellows of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, NITP, United Nations volunteer, and an alumnus of the prestigious Institute of Housing and Urban Development Studies, Erasmus University. He has so many, his citation is so long, but I have to stop here. But let's talk about these properties being demolished in Abuja and generally in Nigeria and so many other places. From his experience, you can see that he's widely read. It's not just well read from Nigeria, but even outside the country. So he's going to tell us a lot of things we need to know, at least tips on what to do so that we don't get our properties demolished. So welcome again, sir.
Thank you, Fumi.
What are the criteria, or why do we have buildings being demolished?
Okay, thank you once again. Demolition, I will perhaps answer that question in the context of the Urban Regional Planning Law. It is said that in section 60 to 63, developments of buildings that will be eligible to be demolished. Firstly, if such buildings have been erected without a building permit, if such building has been erected on floodplain or...
That means if they don't have building permits, that's
building
one.
plan permit.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, that's it. Of course, that renders the building illegal in the eyes of the law.
So if your building doesn't have a building plan permit, it is rendered illegal, or it is called illegal. And
so the required contravention notice will be so served upon expiration of the grace period of the expiry of the demolition notice. Of course, the demolition notice will clearly say the contravention that the issues are that the development has been erected without an approval, and then upon expiration of the grace period, the development will then be removed. Of course, firstly, you'll be required to remove it. If you don't remove upon expiration, the authority, in the case of the state as it may be, will then move in to remove such building and then recover the logistics of the removal from you who have erected such illegal development. That's what the law says.
So they will recover the logistics to demolish the
cost
building.
Which the authority have incurred during the process of the removal of such illegal building shall be recovered from the developer.
Okay, you were saying something about floodway just now, before I cut you.
Yes, I was trying to explain scenarios where you have buildings that are illegal that will be eligible for demolition. Yeah. If buildings are not only being erected illegally, but in order so we understand the context, when you erect building under power line, where they constitute safety hazards to the occupant. In such instance, the authority, in the greater good of the public, will then move in to remove such building. And also when they are erected along floodplain, where they could also constitute potential hazard to the occupant, damage to their lives and property, the authority will then move in to save life and property by removing such developments.
Okay. What if a building is erected on a seaway
That's also part of it, because those are services that are like lifelines for the city. Water line, sewer line. So in order to ensure that during maintenance sessions that the appropriate right of way and setback are left such that maintenance can effectively be carried out, it is expected that no development are put upon the right of way of the sewer line or service lines, so as the case may be.
Okay, how do we know houses that are liable to be demolished?
Okay, it's actually not rocket science. Like I've explained the criterion. When we see developments that are not conforming with the perhaps basic requirements of the required setback from the road, when they are located in such area like under the high tension power cables, located along sewer line or on water lines, it's just that we would obviously know that these are buildings that approval have not been sought and obtained before erecting them.
So you're sure that most of these buildings don't have approvals?
In some cases, there are exceptional cases where some approvals may have been granted to such buildings in error. Okay. So that may also happen.
Okay. So what are the measures put in place to inform the citizens or the owners of such properties that their buildings are going to be demolished?
So can you reframe that question, please?
What measures, or how do you give information to those who own those properties that their buildings are going to be demolished?
Of course, in line with the original planning law, a contravention or demolition notice shall be served in writing, clarifying in specific terms what the contravention is, what makes the building eligible for demolition. So the notice shall be given in writing. That's what the original planning law say. So having communicated this to them in writing and stating the grace period, it explains and clarifies to them what the nature of the contravention is and why the building will be removed.
And they give them time?
Yes, the timeline is given 21 days.
21 days?
Yes.
To move everything?
Yes, to remove the building.
No, but you know, the building was, it's not a building that can be removed like that, but maybe to remove some properties or something from there.
In the eyes of the law, what the section 60 to 63 did say, that if you have erected such illegal building and such notice has been so served upon you, you are supposed to remove all that you have erected on it and restore that land to the pre-existing state.
Oh, okay. I hope you're learning something from this program this morning. Now let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion about why properties are being demolished. But before we go, Property Doctor has some products that will be very helpful to help you stay healthy and wealthy. We have Property Doctor soap, the hand wash, the Property Doctor air freshener, Property Doctor paint, bleach, tile care, so many products that will help you maintain your homes properly. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us for the first time, you're watching Property Doctor. And on this episode, we're discussing why properties are being demolished. Before the break, our guest had successfully told us about the criteria for demolishing properties and how to identify houses that may be demolished. I still have more questions for you, sir. So we've had cases of people who are not certified by law demolishing houses. What agency is responsible for demolishing houses?
Okay.
At least here in Nigeria or particularly in Abuja.
Okay, let's talk Nigeria because the urban regional planning law specifies all of these and is a national law that covers the entire federation. So for whatever state as the case may be, where a development control department has been so established in line with section 27 of the urban regional planning law. So you own a building and you want to demolish it or decommission such building. The law also provides that the way you sought and obtain approval for erecting such building, you shall seek and obtain approval from the control department in order to remove the building as the case may be. And usually the development control department, as the case may be in whichever state, possesses all the requisite logistics and infrastructure for doing decommissioning or demolition of the building, as you put it. But I would like to contextualize that bringing down a building, what you do is actually decommission the building. Yes, even though it's decommissioning.
Okay.
You decommission the building. Of course, there are several ways of doing that. You could do using the heavy-duty tractors, and when the scale of the development are actually large, what you will then do is called controlled demolition, where
that's very large building.
For a very large scale kind of removal, decommissioning. It's called controlled demolition, wherein specialized dynamites are put, and that also happens in fully built up area. Such demolition happens or decommissioning happens wherein no damages is done to the adjoining building, because the development comes down vertically down within the plot which is situated.
Okay, so like for
safety purposes, especially to the adjoining residents and developments.
Okay, is there any form of compensation for such large buildings or any building that has been decommissioned?
I would like to answer that question this way. If you choose to remove your building, of course, there is no compensation for you, because perhaps you want to erect another building, that's why you are doing that. But in the case of an illegal development that's been so identified and contravention notice is served and it's been removed, of course, when the earlier development permit has been granted to such development, there shall be no compensation. However, where you did ask earlier, during an analogy of a specific situation wherein a permit may have been granted, but such development is still found to be defective and is being removed. So in that case, that perhaps will be used to answer this question. Presuppose Madam Fumi owns a 2-bedroom house, or rather, she sought an approval to build a 2-bedroom house, and she erected a 3-bedroom house. So the control department in this case will move in to identify that Madam Fumi has contravened the earlier building plan permit granted to her. Presuppose this is in Kaduna, and a demolition notice shall be so served on Madam Fumi in line with the Kasubda law, for example, in Kaduna. And by this, you would then be required to remove such building by yourself. If you don't, upon expiration of the notice, it will be so removed. However, since a permit has been granted to you earlier, if you have built in line with the permit,
excuse me.
If you have built in line with the permit, presuppose you have a permit for 2-bedroom house and you have built a 2-bedroom house. However, the approval was granted in error. You were situated along a floodplain. So in this instance, it is not your fault. Perhaps it's the fault of the authority. So in this case, the first procedure will be to revoke that building plan permit. So in the revocation of that building plan permit, you then shall be paid compensation for all the costs incurred while processing the permit and the cost incurred for any improvement you have done on the land. However, the law quickly went further to say within section 60 and 63 that is not payment for damages, it's actually payment for losses which you have incurred during the process of obtaining the approval or for the improvement you have done on the land. However, if you have contravened the approval, for example, you are given approval for a 2-bedroom house and you have built a 3-bedroom house, then this is a contravention of the building plan permit, and the law says you shall not be entitled to any compensation, so to speak.
So that is quite deep. What is a floodplain path or floodway? Yeah, what is it?
If a floodway we would describe that as a river course and its right of way within which no development is permitted, because like we know, building a floodplain, yes, may have been a challenge, but it has become more. It has come more to the fore in these days of climate change, where intensity of rainfall has become so intense that volume of rainfall that would have occur in 10 days occur in 1 day. So you then have challenge of flash floods, and then this makes the buildings on this floodplain more susceptible to flood and challenge of loss of life and property, which then may necessitate the removal of such illegal buildings.
Okay, you know, sometimes they talk about public interest overrides personal interest. Sometimes when people build on areas that is not supposed to be for, like, for instance, let me give this instance now. If you sometimes you see people build on areas that have been designated for hospitals or for markets. Now, those people claim that they have approval, they have the C of O, and they've now built on those areas. But later you find out that the development gets to that area and maybe the government is now trying to build a hospital or a market or a police station or something that is supposed to be there from the design of that area by town planners. What do you have to say to people that have built on such areas?
Okay, perhaps I need to clarify this. For every city that has a plan, it would be usually impracticable for there to be a building plan permit granted to any development on such public land. For example, on a school or on a fire service station plot or a police station plot or a general hospital plot.
Okay.
It will not be practicable for the development control department of such city to grant such approval. So it's usually not the case. People actually move in to do that erroneously, especially where the development of infrastructure has not been fully manifested in such areas. So people move in to do such development. And then when you actually speak to them from a research point of view, they will tell you that, oh, the development is just for the meantime and they were going to recover their investment even before government moves in. So it's actually also an attitudinal issue relating to the citizenry.
Okay. Finally, I'm not asking you any question for now, but I want you to advise our viewers or anybody who is getting ready to acquire properties or to build, advise them on what you think they should do or what they should know in case they want to build or in case they want to acquire properties so that they don't lose money.
Okay. Thank you. I think this is quite interesting and is important to this session we're having. Firstly, there is need for sustained acceleration of advocacy on the authorities' part so that the people, of course, yes, the government is doing its part and it's really making some effort in that regard. But there still need to be sustained acceleration of advocacy to the people relating to how to acquire land from the appropriate land registry of any territory or state or city as the case may be. And when you have then acquired the land as the case may be from the land registry of the state, you then should seek and obtain approval from the appropriate control department. When you do that, it's also the onus is also upon you to build in line with such permit that has been granted without any form of deviation. When you do this, then you won't be held culprit of any form of challenge that may necessitate or lead to the challenge of demolition, so to speak. Okay.
Thank you very much for educating us today. I really appreciate the knowledge you have shared with us today. And I believe our viewers too, they got something and they are informed about what to do. To our viewers, thank you for joining us on this episode. I hope you've learned something, at least one thing or two. Remember, if knowledge is not put into practice, it does not benefit anyone. Join me next week for another interesting and educative and informative episode of Property Doctor. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can do so on the link below. And also click on the notification bell so that you can get alert of our videos when they come up. Also follow us on Facebook and on Instagram at Property Doctor NG and on Twitter at Property Doc NG. Make sure you enjoy the rest of your day and join us next week Tuesday for another episode. Have a beautiful week ahead and God bless you. Bye.
I'm coming. If you hand over to government to maintain, the budget demand and share it.
To live in that particular place that the house is. So it's supposed government will compensate them so that and pay them and relocate them to where they are going and build another house for them.
Careful engineering and management to meet human needs.